What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now taking us in to Madison, Wisconsin. We are back in the Big Ten Conference where the Wisconsin Badgers see a very, very pivotal year in front of them for the entirety of this football program. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate, and I want to thank you all so much for clicking on this video and for helping to support the channel. If you would like to support the channel even further, please do what it says right below here on the bottom banner. Hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell. Turning on notifications will ensure you don't miss an upload. You especially don't want to miss one during prediction season, and especially not one of your favorite team. I am delving into the sports media professional world. I did just start my new job not too long ago, and if you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do in the sports media realm while still being up to date what goes on this very YouTube channel, please give me a follow at TailgateNate29 on Twitter or X, whatever your preference for the platform, and Instagram. You can even email me. It's tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel, however you may be doing so. With all that said and done and out of the way, let's start talking about a stupidly pivotal year for Luke Fickell and the Wisconsin Badgers. Luke Fickell, of course, took Cincinnati. Sorry, pointing the wrong way. Luke Fickell took Cincinnati to a college football playoff back when we still had the 4-team system, and it just hasn't worked over here with Wisconsin. I think there's a lot more to do with that than the coaching of Luke Fickell and some of the other coordinators surrounding him. There's been a lot of unfortunate injuries, a lot of other things, and just things that haven't quite worked out for this program. It has to work this season, or Luke Fickell's seat could get way too hot. Of course, obviously leading to his firing this upcoming offseason. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, the offense is going to be over here to the left, the defense over here to the right as we go through a roster overview. At the end of the video, we'll go through the Wisconsin football schedule, give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall tells you what I think about the Badgers in 2025. But before we do get started, I want to make you aware of some things as are right down there. Returning production numbers are according to ESPN, and they do factor in transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage. Wisconsin, one of the top teams in the country in returning production, by the way. I think they sit very least top 20. They might be top 15. I can't remember off the top of my head. Right down below that, though, recruiting and transfer portal ranks are according to 24/7 Sports, and they do those are for the class 2025. Again, just give you some context for the type of talent that is on this Badger team this upcoming season. Let's go ahead and start talking about this offense with your offensive coordinator in Jeff Grimes. And again, we just talk about unfortunate things that happen within this Badger program. A really unfortunate injury to Tyler Van Dyke last season, 422 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks during his 68 passes that he did throw. Was his time still underwhelming when he did play? Yes, absolutely. But again, you never really were able to let him get going into the meat of the season, and Braden Locke had to step in, and he just flamed out, man. 1,936 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Absolutely not what you needed out of the quarterback here for this team. And the quarterback play has not been the strong suit over the past couple of seasons. Didn't work a couple years ago when they went to Tanner Mordecai. Unfortunately, didn't work last season because of the injury to Tyler Van Dyke. And Braden Locke, who had waited his turn patiently, just didn't perform up to what some people felt like he could have. So you are in a position now to where you need to find a guy to prove to be that quarterback. Well, they might have very well found it. Billy Edwards exploded at Maryland last season, 2,881 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Not a guy that's going to get outside of the pocket and run a whole lot, but did have 5 rushing touchdowns last season as well. I know you probably could technically call him Bill Edwards, but I'll go with what's on most roster sheets everywhere and call him Billy. So Billy's going to hope to turn around the quarterback woes here within this program, and trust me, Wisconsin needs it real bad. They also are going to need to find a new leading rusher because Tawee Walker, the former Oklahoma Sooner, 864 yards and 10 touchdowns last season, is gone. Another pretty solid running back that comes out of the Wisconsin Badger football program. You do, however, still have some pretty solid options back in this running back room, despite Tawee Walker now transferring over to Cincinnati. And by the way, Tyler Van Dyke and Braden Locke did both transfer out of this program. They're going to start new beginnings elsewhere. The running back room does not see a major transfer come in, but it does still see some really solid younger-ish options, although Although this first name I'm about to mention in Cade Yakimelli is an upperclassman as a redshirt junior, probably the lead candidate to be the new lead rusher this year. Darian Dupree is a true sophomore. I think they're going to be a solid duo, and even if you go back one more to Dylan Jones, a redshirt freshman, maybe you see him get a fair load of carries this season. I think at very least those first two names I mentioned are going to get a bulk of them and could be some pretty solid backs for Wisconsin. Again, their running back history is deep, it's rich, and we'll see if Cade Yakimelli and Darian Dupree can add to that rich history this upcoming season. Your leading receiver, I do believe it was your lead receiver last year. No, your second lead receiver. My apologies. Will Pauling is now with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Even though he wasn't your lead receiver, did lead the team in catches with 42 of them, had 407 yards and 3 touchdowns of production last season. And overall, you could say, not saying this is what I'm saying, but you could say he was the most talented piece in this wide receiver room. However, the group should improve overall this season and get some more production. Vinny Anthony was the lead receiver. He's coming back, and Trek Kekahuna is also back this season as well for Anthony, 672 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. You also are getting Jaden Ballard to come on over through the transfer portal, got lost in a very talented room over with Ohio State. Well, you know that Ohio State doesn't recruit just any people to come play wide receiver for them, especially since Brian Hartline has been there. Jaden Ballard, I think, is going to be a substantial, really important piece to this Wisconsin team. Very well could be the lead receiver once it is all said and done. Tight ends have also been pretty prevalent and pretty well known throughout Badger history, especially as of late. And hey, your lead tight end, Tucker Ashcraft, is going to be coming back this season. Now, only had 82 yards and 1 touchdown. I expect that production to take a pretty big jump for Tucker Ashcraft this season. It's a room that I just think has got to produce more. Same thing with the wide receiver unit. Same thing with the quarterback room. This is a pass game overall that I think has got to produce more. And there's really no excuse for it getting better this season because the offensive line last year, I think, only allowed 12, 13, maybe 14 sacks. It only loses 2 starters, but a ton of talent are going to, or I say, is going to come back for this offensive front. 13 sacks. Apologies, that is what they allowed last season. You do have one transfer in Davis Heinzen that is going to transfer in here, but again, Joe Bruner is back, Jake Renfro is back, 2 big-time pieces up on that offensive line. It should still be one of the Big Ten's better units this upcoming season, but a lot of the production around the offensive line has got to get better. It starts with Billy Edwards, hopes to turn around the quarterback woes, as I've said before, and again, even Billy Edwards can find some ways to improve his own game. Billy Edwards is a guy that definitely can find a way to get better, can find a way to improve. And if he does so, look, showed a lot of really good things at Maryland. I think you're going to see his production increase this season. I also believe that you're just going to see production offensively as a whole get better. It was an absolutely atrocious offense last year. It's got to get better this season, and I think it will by quite a pretty substantial margin. You move on over here and talk about the defense for Mike Tressel, Luke Fickell and company. The Badger defense just lacked its usual tendencies last season. It was a really disappointing season for Wisconsin defensive football. It has got to find more aggressiveness this season. Spelling lesson for all of you, aggressiveness does have 2 G's, so there you go. Now the word is, of course, spelled correctly. Quite the long word, too, by the way. One of the longer words that I will use on regular. Aggressiveness. Good. Anyway, Wisconsin has got to find their more aggressive tendencies. They've got to be able to increase that pass rush up from 17 sacks last season. I mean, come on, that's just an abysmal number. They forced 12 turnovers last season. Okay, get better at that. Force 16, 17, 18. Wisconsin's going to win more games because of it. It's what has won them games in the past. They're going to win more games this season because I believe the offense is going to take a step forward and the defense overall just has to take a step forward this season. I think it's going to. I think it has to. There are a lot of different things that I think are going to help impact this Badger defense this year. However, this is not one of them. Their defensive front losing their top 3 tacklers from last season. This is a defensive front that's going to need to bulk up and find some other guys to step in and really take over for this defensive front. A lot of guys, even though the sack production was not that prevalent last season, you are losing some really, really good and well-talented pieces, most notably led by Jaheim Thomas. Exhausted his collegiate eligibility. He is gone. However, you do get a solid returner in Ben Barton. He is going to be coming back, a solid piece for Wisconsin last year that had 22 tackles. Okay, good returner. And then a ton of transfers enter this room. Parker Peterson was over at Tulane last year where he had 2.5 sacks. Corey Walker from West Michigan had 5.5 sacks last season. Charles Perkins is from UT Martin. My apologies. Javier Suggs had 2.5 sacks and only 10 tackles last season with the LSU Tigers. An influx of 4-star transfers. I believe all those guys I just said there are 4-star transfers. Should help this pass rush. It's got to get better. I think it's going to get better, and those transfers going to be a big reason why it does improve from last season. 3 key contributors in the linebacking room leave. So same thing with the defensive front. 3 really, really big linebacker pieces are going to be gone. You are losing just some really, really talented pieces. However, your lead man in Christian Allegro, or Allegro, however you say the last name. I do apologize for mispronunciations. He has got 66 tackles, 3 sacks instead of a pass defended last season. Leading tackler among linebackers last season. You're going to see him come back, but again, a lot of his running mates from last season are gone. However, Curtis Tackett, I should say Tackett Curtis. Flip it. Tackett Curtis is a big name transfer that came over from USC, should perform a lot better this season. You are going to have Daryl Peterson return, and then some pretty good transfers. Mason Reger comes over from Louisville, where he had 5 sacks last season. You also are getting Teron Turner from Western Carolina, and then Tyrese Fearby over from Kentucky is a good solid piece in that linebacking unit as well. So again, you add in some good pass rushers that have proven to get back to the quarterback in this linebacking unit. On top, I think it's going to be a really good tackling unit, which is what you need your linebackers to do. I think the pass rush can even take it to a next level. I think the defensive front with the pass rush is already going to get better. When you throw in the fact that you got linebackers and then get back to the quarterback too, this is the Wisconsin pass rush that I don't think has many excuses left for why it can't get better this upcoming season. Let's talk about the secondary. Lead tackler and Hunter Wohler is now in the NFL. 71 tackles and 6 passes defended as a safety last season. He is now with the Indianapolis Colts. However, there is a ton of experience, another good group of portal pieces that are going to be coming in. Ricardo Hallman, Preston Zachman, Austin Brown, Nizer Forquerin are all coming back to the secondary. You also do get Matthew Trainer as probably the highest impact transfer you do get. He's over from Richmond, and a lot of other good pieces do come in as well. Kicker and punter both return for Wisconsin this year. Their names are Nathaniel Vakos and Atticus Bertrams, respectively, because kickers are people too. Let's show them some love. Offensively, can't have another injury to the quarterback this season. I think Billy Edwards, when staying healthy, should improve this offense. He's got a lot of nice pieces around him and a good offensive front protecting him. As far as the defensive side goes, aggressiveness, man. Be more aggressive this season. Get after some more turnovers. At the very least, get 30 sacks this season. There are not many more excuses left for me on why the defense can't be more aggressive and can't improve from last season. But can the Badger defense save can the Badger team overall save Luke Fickell's job by navigating the schedule? Well, this is going to prove to, I think, be a very challenging schedule for the Badger faithful. You see it right over here. But before we dive into it, let's look down below. The FanDuel odds, again, they are subject to change. They are, of course, as of recording this video, and they just give you some good context to how good the odds makers think the Badgers are going to be this season. Well, not that great. Plus 12,000 odds to win the conference is pretty long shot, and plus 8,500 odds to win the national championship shows you a lot has to go right. They even don't have a lot of faith in the pure wins. 5.5 is that over-under win total. Look, you do have a really tough non-conference game and a brutal Big Ten schedule. Now, you do avoid Penn State, you do avoid Nebraska, but you have a lot of heavy hitters and a lot of teams that are probably going to improve from where they were last season. Let's start with Miami, Ohio. Really, really good team out of the Mid-American Conference for so long. They are reloading everything. However, they are going to be still a pretty solid side, even with their lack of returning production, such as Gabbert and some of the weapons offensively and defensively. Guys, you still got a ton of defensive pieces returning. DeQuan Finn is a dual threat quarterback that's now with his second Mid-American program. He was at Baylor last year, lost that starting job, and now is back in the MAC after being at Toledo for a long time and excelling over there. Wide receiver room is all built through the portal, has amazing pieces, but I think Wisconsin gets it done. I think with Miami trying to break in a lot of these new pieces, again, DeQuan Finn, I think it's going to give this Badger defense a lot of quarrels and a lot of things to think about. However, I do think that Wisconsin will avoid that sort of pseudo trap at home, and they will beat Miami, Ohio. They also should have no trouble with Middle Tennessee. Here was the tough non-conference game I was talking about. You probably knew what I was talking about even when I said it or even before I said it. This game on the road against Alabama, I think is going to be really, really hard for Badgers to try to win here. Everything has got to go right, and they got to take advantage of some of Bama's weaknesses, which I just don't know that Wisconsin is necessarily built that well to do. Bama's going to be a very, very good team this year. They're very talented, got some great weapons on the outside, led by Ryan Williams. You are going to have a quarterback that more fits the style that Kalen DeBoer wants to play. That is, of course, going to be Ty Simpson. You've heard it all about. The coaches have said it. No one's kept it a secret. Ty Simpson probably going to be that starter for Bama this year. And the defense is still going to be really, really good. It's got a lot of disruptive pieces. Then I think that's the biggest reason why Bama wins this game. A lot of disruptive pieces defensively to slow down everything Billy Edwards wanted to do, to slow down this run game. And it was a thrashing last season in Madison. I don't really know if I see this one being much different, Badger faithful. Bama's going to get you in Tuscaloosa, and Wisconsin loses that game. However, you do get a kickoff Big Ten play with a pretty easy one here. It is Billy Edwards' former team, and I think Maryland's going to take a big step back this season after, again, losing Billy Edwards. Ton of weapons overall, offensively and defensively. It could be a really, really rough year for this Terrapin team. I think they're going to be towards the bottom of the Big Ten Conference, and that is a win for the Wisconsin Badgers. So, okay, you're starting out 3-1. You just need to get 3 more wins across 8 games. Guys, take a look at the rest of this schedule. That is just not going to be easy. It starts out with a road game against Michigan, and I just don't think the Badgers are going to be winning in Ann Arbor. Wisconsin, or I should say Michigan, is a team that I think is only going to get better from where they were last season. Now, defensively, maybe they regressed overall statistically a little bit. A lot of their star power does leave, but even if they do regress, guys, it's going to be very minimalistic. Michigan's a defense that is still going to be one of the best units in the country this year, even though the top end big name guys aren't necessarily there. A lot of people feel that way. I feel that way. It is still a defense that has a ton of really good pieces, and Michigan feels like, some of the, or I should say more NFL talent than they have ever had on the defensive side of the football. Offensively, you got Bryce Underwood coming in there, some really good wide receiver pieces. Justice Haynes is in to, I think, be the next great running back that Michigan has come through that program. You got a couple other really good pieces in that backfield there as well. Michigan's a team I like a lot this season. They're going to be much better record-wise than they were last year. Maybe they go through some growing pains, sure, but I do think Michigan is going to be a really good team, and this is the game that I see the Wolverines being able to win in the Big House. There are, however, a couple games this season when you are taking a look throughout this schedule that I do think are going to exude desperation and pressure. And if you don't win this game, watch out. This is one of those situations here against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, if Wisconsin's defense improves by any margin, I think this is going to be a defensive battle, especially if that pass rush is going to be able to get to Mark Gronowski, new Iowa quarterback who won some national titles at the FCS level with the with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. This is an Iowa team, though, that I don't think has the weapons to be able to fully exude what Mark Gronowski is capable of offensively. And if it becomes a defensive brawl, I think Wisconsin overall is going to be a little bit more well-rounded offensively. I don't see the offense being as atrocious as it was last season. Again, a game that just exudes desperation. I think I think Wisconsin wins this one, and the pressure can be taken off Fickell for a little bit. Things start to look up here in Madison, and it's going to feel like it's going downhill very, very quickly. I think you're going to lose both of these games against what at the end of the year could prove to be the best 2 teams in the Big Ten Conference, although you absolutely have to throw Penn State into the mix, and I think Penn State's going to be better than Oregon. But besides that, you do get Ohio State at home. And if you can build some momentum from that Iowa game, maybe it's an opportunity to trap the Buckeyes here in Madison. I just don't see it. I don't think the offense is going to be explosive enough to slow down this Buckeye defense. I don't think you got many guys in the secondary that can slow down number 4 in Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State's got the best 2 players on either side of the ball in the country. That's Jeremiah Smith offensively, and of course, Caleb Downs defensively. I think Julian Sayin is going to fit really well in with this program, trying to fill in the needs there to replace Will Howard. And I really like what the Buckeyes have got. Won the national title last year. Don't see a reason they can't do it again this year, even though they're trying to replace a lot, especially defensively. I do think Ohio State going to be one of the nation's better groups, and just not many guys that can slow down what Ohio State is going to be able to do through the air. Kind of the same thing here with Oregon. Dante Moore has sat back and waited his turn. He transferred in from UCLA last year, has waited, is now going to be getting his opportunity here with the Duck program. Evan Stewart is a massive loss. Who knows how long he's out for, but it could very well be the entire season with the patellar injury. Those injuries are never, never fun, and they can take forever to recover from. However, Oregon does still have some really phenomenal weapons, and where they win this game is with their defensive pressure. I know Wisconsin's going to be a pretty solid offensive line this season, and the Badgers were close to knocking off Oregon last year. This is going to be a little bit different. You're on the road in Autzen, tough place to play. I believe first time Wisconsin has been there ever, if not at the very least in a very, very long time. Oregon should win that game there at home. But then you take a look here. Wisconsin does get to catch their breath after 2 really, really tough games against, again, 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten Conference. You get to slow down, you get to recoup your thoughts, and then you get a home game after a bye week against the Washington Huskies. Massive game here. I mean, just massive game. Now, Washington probably does not have as much pressure as Wisconsin. This is going to be an absolutely huge game. You take a look at the rest of the schedule. Again, you probably get through your 2 toughest tests of the season right there against Ohio State and Oregon. Washington is going to be a test. Demon Williams, really, really good quarterback that I think is going to have a really good season with this Husky program. Jonah Coleman, one of the best running backs in the entire country, and a Washington Husky defense that is bulking up through the portal and has got some really, really good pieces. But the desperation can be exuded here, and I think Wisconsin can take advantage of some of the weaknesses that Washington had last season that could very well still have in this upcoming year as well. No other way to describe it for me other than, look, it's desperation. They are going to play really, really hard. This pass rush, if it gets any better, I think can give Washington a ton of fits, and Wisconsin does win that game against Washington. Although a very, very tough battle, especially if Washington looks like a team that's going to explode this year. Watch out, but I think having it at home in Camp Randall, another very, very big benefit, and Wisconsin wins that game. However, I think you lose your next 2 on the road at Indiana. Hoosier football not going away, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a very, very good Hoosier team, especially now with Fernando Mendoza coming in. A lot of their top options offensively coming back, especially Elijah Surratt in that wide receiver room. As far as defensively, you do lose a lot of depth pieces, but you bring in some talented transfers, and a lot of your heavy hitters, such as Aiden Fisher, are going to be coming back defensively for you. As long as Kurt Signetti's there, Hoosier football not going to go away. Indiana does win that game, and Illinois, a team that I'm really high on. This could be a trap against Wisconsin, because if the Badger defense gets back to its former glory, I think, again, this is an Illinois offense that's not going to be explosive, not going to be super dynamic. I think Wisconsin can slow it down, and if the offense is a whole lot better than it was last year, Illinois' got to watch out. This is just quite simply an Illini team I'm really high on. I like Luke Altmaier. I think the defense is going to fly all over the field. College football playoff sleeper for sure, and it all hinges on the game against Minnesota. And I think Wisconsin takes the axe home, and they make a bowl game. Is it going to feel good? No. But let me break down this Minnesota game here in just about 15 seconds. This is definitely a game in which I could absolutely see Wisconsin losing. I can see Wisconsin losing a lot of games that I think inevitably they are going to win this season. However, when you are talking about Minnesota, these games are usually defensive slogs. They're back and forth battles. And even though Darius Taylor is one of the better running backs that we have in the country, I just see Wisconsin playing more physical. I think they're overall going to be tougher this season. And I do think that they will get that road win. Is it going to feel outstanding to go 6-6? No. Not at all. But you do hit the over on that win total. I think for the moment you save Luke Fickell's job. And let's be honest, going 6-6 with this schedule is honestly quite the accomplishment considering what we've seen Wisconsin do over the past couple of seasons. It's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be glorious, but I do think the Badgers find a way to get back to a bowl game this season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you tomorrow with some more predictions. Goodbye.